Hello. Bl'Artagnan here with Shelke the Transparent, the Shelke debut event Lufenia Plus fight. We're bringing a team of Agrias, Exdeath, and Vayne. Before we get into it, be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. They're both really overplayed memes, but they do help the channel, and only like 10% of viewers usually actually hit that like button, which is not a whole lot, so I appreciate any goodwill you can throw my way in defeating the YouTube algorithm and all that jazz. So this fight, as I understand it, can be pretty obnoxious if you're not bringing Agrias. So we're bringing Agrias. Easy enough. We're also bringing Vayne and Exdeath because both of these dudes are total bosses, and I don't just mean that they're bosses in their games, which they are, I'm stupid, but they also kind of kick ass. I hope you enjoy that Vayne skill 2 animation because you're going to be seeing a lot of it. Jack coming in here and actually very handily killing that minion right then and there, right when I needed him to. Allowing us to drop the Jack debuff right here. Because if you don't know, and by this point you probably do, if you can confuse the boss, not paralyze, but specifically confusion, then it doesn't resummon, or no, it does resummon its adds, but it doesn't gain the evasion that it normally does when it does so. So you'll be able to continue punching it even though the adds are on the field, which is pretty great. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and push you back real quick. Go ahead and paralyze. Or no, not paralyze. There we go. Here's the paralyze. The Kurosami's done his thing. Nice. It's okay, we have a little bit of time to drop that to get the confusion on, so we're going to go ahead and just make sure the turns are perfectly where we want them. Bring in the Cloud of Darkness for end. And now Vayne can just kind of go wild. The orb for this fight is pretty interesting. You'll be seeing it at the 80% mark. You have to recover 2 skills with an action. Not everyone can do that. You know, some skill recovery only affects 1 skill. For instance, most of Kistis's kit revolves around recovering skill 2. Luckily, Vayne and Agrias both have ways to recover both of their skills at once. Vayne with his EX, Agrias with her LD, so we'll be handling the orb pretty safely with this setup. In a shocking twist, the burst cycle character is really good in this event. Vayne, shockingly, I know, like, Vayne good in one of his burst cycle fights. Who would have thunk it? But anywho, the orb has now appeared, and it's summoned a minion, but we're still able to punch it thanks to that Agrias goofiness. We're going to go ahead and toss out a Mach Wave. That's the one thing to be mindful of that you may have heard already, is that with the skill recovery, you have to actually recover the skills, meaning you have to use the skills before you can recover them. So in Agrias' case, I made sure to press both her skill 1 and her skill 2 before using the LD in order to boost the orb there. And with Vayne, you'll see I occasionally do awkward, somewhat suboptimal looking things with it when tossing out his skills. Like here, I'm using a Force of Will, even though I could have used, I could have popped the EX to break them both, or whatever. I could have used an LD. I wanted to make sure I've spent some uses of his skills because his plus versions are free at all times. So if you want to spend down those skills, you're going to need to do it when he doesn't have his Conqueror's Power 3 stacks, which is a little bit... it's high touch, but it's not something that's going to be difficult to do as long as you're mindful of it and paying attention. Helpful thing to do is just keep in mind the skill ceiling for each of those characters. So like when you can quickly look and be like, oh, okay, Agrias has 5 uses of skill 1. That means I need to use one in order to recover that orb stuff. So we just launched a helicopter into the sky. That was redundant. But there it is. Another little trick I'm using in this fight. You'll notice that I'm going to be capping pretty much the entire fight with only Jack and Kurosami debuffs. Well, and also Curse, that's helping too. But the reason for that is the boss actually, when you kill the adds, will debuff itself. It'll put a pair of unframed debuffs on itself for 1 turn, which makes it take increased brave damage. I want to say lowers its defense is the other thing. So if you actually don't load up on debuff calls, you can deal a hefty chunk of damage if you can deny its turns and just ride the debuffs it applies to itself there, which is pretty nifty. They didn't need to put that in the fight. I'm glad that they did. It just makes our lives a little bit easier, you know? Vayne's gonna be just like pooping out 70, or what am I trying to say? Nearly 300,000 damage skill 2s pretty regularly. Cloud of Darkness capping with the follow-up attacks. It's just going to be a great time all around. And a quick skill 2 on B there to make sure the turns line up so the Cloud of Darkness can delay them and all that jazz. There we go. Exdeath is back. And now that Cloud of Darkness is gone, we're going to swap over to Exdeath. My game plan here was I figured, hey, well, he'll ignore the reductions, so his burst effect, which is, as I've said before, the best burst effect in the game, won't be, affected. It'll do a whole bunch of damage. It'll be great. What I didn't expect was that Brave damage up, which I'm checking and saying, whoa, that's a lot. I want to... Don't quote me on this. If I remember right from the infographic, I think it's like 50% Brave damage up, which is a hefty chunk to just kind of drop onto yourself. So that's why you see there I use the HP attack so that his EX debuff doesn't overwrite it. As much as it pains me, I love his EX. I love that animation so much. I say that every time I do it, but it doesn't change. I continue loving that animation so much. Speaking of cool burst animations, here we go. Giant sword. I'm having a lot of fun in this game, just like playing with fun toys. I know I haven't posted too many like quirky challenge runs since Lufenia Plus started, but that's because, frankly, the toys they gave us to play with in Lufenia Plus are a lot of fun to use. And I'm realizing that my favorite part of this game is using the fun toys, so here we are. So now, with Exdeath rolling, we got that Vayne burst effect. I'm going to go ahead and quickly break you and spend an extra skill 1 just to make sure it gets spent. Now, normally I use air skill 1 before the burst effect, and I probably should have, honestly, but I used it here mostly so that I'd get the extra proc of the burst effect poison, which is most likely more helpful than getting the attack up during the burst phase. Especially given the number of turns Vayne's going to be taking. Check this out. We are doing 93,000 damage to each boss on each action. Cloud of Darkness was doing more, so don't get it twisted. Cloud of Darkness is still an absolutely absurd burst friend to have on deck. But I'm enjoying what's going on here. Get that sweet battery, all that jazz. It's going pretty well. The battery actually is pretty helpful since Vayne refunds on his skill 2. Doing some quick maths in my head to make sure that we're not going to run afoul of the orb with the burst effect or anything like that running out. Something I didn't realize about how Vayne's burst effect worked was I was annoyed because it only triggers when an ally breaks an enemy. But he basically breaks the enemy every time he does anything, so it works out okay. You're usually guaranteed like at least 8 follow-up attacks during his burst phase, plus any of your allies happen to toss out there. So that's kind of cool, I guess. It's, I think as far as bursts go, it's not the most exciting, but it's something. I'll take it. So I actually goofed slightly, and this guy summoned... He actually full healed his B ally there. Something to be careful of. Shoutouts to Goose, by the way. Be careful when trying to target B, because it's very easy to accidentally target one of your allies instead of B when you're trying to click on them. So make sure, you'll see, whenever at certain points during the fight, I will try to target B, and I'll be very careful to make sure I'm actually targeting B by looking at the turn order and seeing who's highlighted, because it's very easy to click on Exdeath the way they're positioned right now. This is the high-level game commentary insight you can expect from such a player with my pedigree. Anyway, using some skill 1s here for the splash damage, because at this point we do need to kill the adds in order for the fight to end as well, so it doesn't have to be at the same time or anything like that. Nothing fancy, they just all need to die, so we're busting at the AoE damage instead of the skill 2. There goes the helicopter, and from here it's academic. I could go into summon, but you know what? We've gotten this far. I don't think we need the summon. I believe in us. Let's just go ahead and drop this sick EX. Look at that shit. And you know what? It's appropriate. The lady who made this all possible, let's take us home, Agrias. There we go. There you have it. The Shelke event Lufenia. Exdeath killing it in Lufenia Plus still. Vayne BT. Good in his own cycle. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and see you in the next one. Adios.